Welcome back. My name is Sam, a seasoned park ranger at the captivating but elusive Snagwood National Park. This park, a sprawling landscape of age-old trees and vast wilderness, has been my second home for over 2 decades. However, there's an uncanny transformation the park undergoes under the moon's radiant glow, particularly on the nights when the moon is at its fullest. It's as though the forest is awakened by an unseen force, and the conventional nighttime noises give way to an unsettling symphony of screams, as though originating from the forest's very soul. My safe haven during these nights is the Ranger's Station, a sturdy wooden structure equipped with high-tech surveillance systems. Sitting inside, cradling a steaming mug of black coffee in my worn hands, my eyes scan the multitude of screens, which display various corners of the sprawling park. An uncanny sensation, almost like cold tendrils, slithers up my spine as the eerie noises punctuate the quietude of my retreat. The eerie phenomenon began precisely a year ago when my dear friend and fellow ranger Mason mysteriously disappeared. It was during a routine patrol on one such full moon night. An exhaustive search in the subsequent days bore no evidence of Mason's whereabouts. Not a scrap of his clothing, no footprints, not even the faintest trace of a struggle. He seemed to have dissolved into the very air, leaving behind a torrent of unanswered questions that hung in the atmosphere, a chilling reminder of our loss. 1 year after Mason's confounding disappearance, I found myself tracing his footsteps, engulfed by the palpable sense of unease that such nights were synonymous with. The old-growth forest seemed denser than usual, the beam of my flashlight barely scratching the surface of the darkness. The forest screamed around me, the deafening cacophony echoing through the gnarled trunks and the underbrush. Suddenly, the forest's incessant screams were overpowered by a single agonizing howl, chilling me to the marrow. The beastly cry was reminiscent of the ethereal screams that had filled the forest since Mason's disappearance. But this was markedly different. It was closer, much closer than I was comfortable with. A primeval dread seized me. I was not alone. I moved towards the source of the sound, my heart pounding, but each step was measured, each breath controlled. I pulled out my tranquilizer gun, my last resort in case things took a turn for the worse. I've always believed in the sanctity of all life, and I intended to stand by my principles, even when faced with an impending threat. My journey led me to a moonlit clearing. Nestled within this clearing was an ancient stone structure, its origins concealed by the passage of time. Its massive stones bathed in the moon's cold glow, the structure loomed ominously. Suddenly, the silence of the clearing was disrupted by the rustle of undergrowth, and a monstrous figure lumbered into view from behind the stones. I instinctively trained my flashlight at it, and my heart nearly stopped at the sight. Before me was Mason, or at least what remained of him. The man I once knew as a friend was all but gone, replaced by this horrific creature. His transformation was nothing short of grotesque, a beastly abomination, more bear than man. But his eyes, they were unmistakably Mason's. They bore into mine, not with the rage I had anticipated, but with an inexpressible sorrow that spoke volumes about his year-long ordeal. I tried to communicate with him, to remind him of our shared memories. Memories of countless patrols, shared laughter around the campfire, our mutual respect for the forest. But the beast within him seemed to perceive me only as a threat. Without warning, Mason, now more beast than man, lunged at me. His hulking form, a distorted silhouette against the moonlit underbrush, crashed through the foliage, its power and speed belying its monstrous size. The thunderous pulse in my ears matched the rhythmic pounding of adrenaline that fueled my senses into high alert. As he closed the distance, time seemed to elongate, each moment stretching into a taut thread of suspense. Yet despite the paralyzing fear that clawed at my sanity, my grip on the tranquilizer gun remained steadfast. My knuckles white against the cold metal, I aimed, each breath controlled, each heartbeat a metronome counting down to the moment of truth. As I squeezed the trigger, the dart shot forward, burying itself into the creature's flank. A horrifying realization dawned as Mason's charge did not falter. The tranquilizer seemed ineffective. My hand, tremulous and cold, instinctively reached for the knife at my belt. It was a desperate, bitter acknowledgement of what might be necessary, an action that tore at my core as I weighed survival against loyalty. But then, an ear-splitting howl ripped through the stillness, the sound so raw and agonized it sent shivers down my spine. Mason's momentum faltered and he collapsed onto the dew-dappled forest floor. His body convulsed violently, each tremor a shockwave through the earth beneath him, until finally, he lay eerily still. The haunting echo of his howl faded, swallowed by the forbidding silence of the night. The deafening silence of the clearing was broken by the crackle of my radio. Dispatch Officer Jenny's voice filled the chilling void. I reported the situation, requesting immediate medical assistance for Mason, my words punctuated by a fervent prayer for my friend's survival. A medical team arrived promptly, their swift actions a blur in the chaos. Mason was sedated and airlifted to a hospital in the city. As he was taken away, I noticed his monstrous form gradually fading, giving way to the man we all knew and missed. His condition, however, remained critical. The forest, too, fell silent. The howls that had filled the air since his disappearance ceased, replaced by a deafening silence that seemed to echo through the trees. It was as if the forest was holding its breath, waiting for the outcome. As the rescue helicopter disappeared into the velvety darkness, I found myself standing alone in the clearing. The ancient stones seemed to watch me, their shadows cast long and menacing under the moonlight. My radio broke the silence once more. It was Jenny, checking in on me. I reassured her, promising to return to the station shortly. Instead of returning immediately, I found myself drawn towards the ancient stones. They stood silent, their monolithic presence unyielding under the moonlit sky. The inscriptions on their surfaces, visible now under my flashlight, seemed to pulsate with an inexplicable energy. My fingers traced the intricate symbols etched into the cold stone, an unspoken language lost to the annals of time. The moment my skin made contact, a surge of raw, primal energy coursed through me. Sounds amplified around me, the gentle rustle of leaves, the distant hoot of an owl, the subtle snapping of twigs under the night critters. It was as if the forest had suddenly opened a dialogue with me, a language not composed of words but of sounds and silences, rhythms and pauses. And for the first time, I listened. The days blended together as Mason fought for his life in the confines of the sterile hospital. His transformation had triggered a myriad of unknown complications, leaving the medical staff baffled. During this time, I was visited by a stranger, a man introduced as Elder Gray, a shaman from a local Native American community. He had come upon hearing of our predicament. He explained that Mason was chosen, not cursed, chosen by an ancient spirit of the forest, a being of the full moon known as Wendigo. His eyes bore a mixture of reverence and fear when he uttered the name. According to him, the stones were sacred totems placed by his ancestors to contain the Wendigo within the forest's heart. However, the Wendigo was not malicious, he emphasized. It needed a guardian, someone who respected and cherished the forest, a vessel to communicate its plea. That was Mason's fate, and now I realized it was mine. Elder Gray taught me an age-old ritual, one to pacify the Wendigo and ensure it remained within the forest's boundaries. It was to be performed each full moon night, the time when the Wendigo was at its strongest. I was skeptical, but desperation and my vow to protect Mason overpowered any doubts. As the next full moon rose, painting the sky with an ethereal glow, I stood amidst the stones, with Elder Gray by my side. The haunting screams of the forest began again, echoing through the night. This time, however, I understood the melody in the chaos. It wasn't an expression of malice, but a plea for peace, a call for someone to keep the balance. Mason survived. His transformation reversed, and he returned to his human form. His memories of that fateful year were nothing but blurred fragments of a chilling nightmare. He left the Park Service, seeking solace in a place far away from the haunting memories of Snagwood National Park. As for me, I stayed. Every full moon night, I would perform the ritual Elder Gray taught me. The forest would scream its eerie melody, and I would respond, maintaining the delicate balance. I look out at the forest under the moon's glow, a sense of unease gnawing at my heart. What if I'm next? But leaving is not an option. I'm a park ranger, a guardian. The forest needs me. Every ending is but a new beginning in the realm of the strange and the unexplained. Subscribe to keep the stories breathing and the mysteries unraveling. Until we next cross paths again. Sleep well, if you dare.